Prisoner intake procedure complete. Species identification, human. Threat level, maximum. Protocol 7 Delta now in effect. The automated voice echoed throughout the sterile processing chamber of the Galactic Confederacy's maximum security prison, Detention Complex E-19. Lieutenant Commander Rex Danger, formerly of the Earth Space Navy, stood confused in his prison jumpsuit as a flurry of alarms blared and 6 heavily armed guards rushed into the room. "Whoa, guys, what's with the welcome committee?" Rex asked, raising his hands defensively. "I was just caught mapping your defense grid. It's standard POW stuff." "No need to hey, is that a disintegration cannon?" The tallest guard, a spindly Exarthan with purple skin and 4 arms, all holding different weapons, stepped forward. "Silence, human. You will be transported immediately to Execution Chamber 3. "Execution? Don't I get a trial? A phone call? One last meal of questionable nutritional value?" The door hissed open, and in strode Warden Zoltak, a bulbous, gelatinous being with 15 eyes arranged in a perfect pentagon on what might generously be called a face. Each eye blinked independently in what Rex could only assume was a display of bureaucratic importance. "Ah, a human," Zoltak gurgled, his speech translator converting the wet sounds into standard galactic. "How unfortunate for us all. Guards, why has Protocol 7 Delta not been completed? The human should already be atomized." Rex stepped forward, only to have all weapons immediately pointed at his face. "Look, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I'm Lieutenant Commander Rex Danger of the—" "No talking," shrieked one of the guards, a small avian creature whose feathers were literally ruffling in terror. "It's starting the verbal assault." Zoltak's body rippled with what might have been a sigh. "Human, Galactic Confederacy Prisoner Regulation 429B clearly states that all human prisoners are to be executed immediately upon processing. No exceptions, no delays, no conversation." "That seems excessively harsh," Rex said slowly. "What exactly did we do to deserve the express lane to oblivion?" The warden's body pulsated nervously. "Guards, prepare the execution chamber and apply the audio dampening fields. We can't risk exposure to extended human vocalization." As Rex was roughly escorted down a long corridor, he noticed that all other prisoners, beings from across the galaxy representing hundreds of species, were quickly ushered into their cells. Some even screamed at the sight of him. "You know," Rex called to Zoltak, who was floating several safe meters behind the procession, "in human culture, it's considered polite to tell someone why they're being executed." Zoltak's 15 eyes narrowed simultaneously. "Do not attempt your psychological manipulations on me, human. I am well versed in your kind's dangerous conversational tactics." "Dangerous conversational tactics?" Rex repeated, genuinely bewildered. "Look, I just want to know what's going on." The last warden who explained the policy to a human ended up releasing not only the human but 16 high-security prisoners and resigning his position to become a poet on Rigel 7. Zoltak said grimly, "I will not make the same mistake." "That sounds like quite a story," Rex said, unable to hide his growing curiosity. Zoltak's gelatinous form quivered. "Fine. If it will silence you before execution, I will explain. Your kind has been banned from standard prisoner protocols because of what happened with prisoner 772X, the human female you called Jenny Miller." "Jenny Motomuth Miller?" Rex asked with a grin. "She's legendary. First human to infiltrate the Vorpal Nebula outpost. What happened with her?" Zoltak's eyes swiveled nervously as they approached the execution chamber. Against protocol, the previous warden, Exlix, decided to interrogate her before execution. What followed was the most catastrophic security breach in Confederacy history. The memory engram recording had become required viewing for all Confederacy security personnel. In it, a petite human female with bright red hair sat across from a now infamous Tralaxian warden named Exlix. The timestamp showed the interrogation was in its 6th standard hour. "So anyway," Jenny was saying, leaning forward confidentially, "that's how I learned that my aunt's recipe for chocolate chip cookies had been stolen by my neighbor Mrs. Wrinklebottom. Had been passing them off as her own at the county fair for 12 years. Can you believe it? 12 years. That's almost as long as you've been a warden here, right? X-Lix, whose species was known for their logical, orderly minds, twitched uncomfortably. The human Miller, please return to the matter of how you breached Vorpal Nebula's security. Oh, that reminds me of this one time I breached security at my high school prom. See, I wasn't actually on the decorating committee, but my friend Tiffany was dating the DJ, who had this brother who worked at the balloon store. The recording showed X-Lix's gradual transformation from composed professional to disheveled wreck. By the 9th hour, he was nodding along to Jenny's stories. By the 15th, he was sharing details about the prison's security systems. At hour 23, he was sobbing about his childhood dream of becoming a dance choreographer instead of a prison warden. Hour 27 showed Jenny patting his shoulder consolingly while he entered the override codes that would open all the doors in the detention block. And what the humans had discovered. Zoltak explained as they reached the execution chamber door, was that their seemingly random conversational patterns create a form of cognitive disruption in most sentient species, the constant topic shifting, emotional manipulation, and what your kind calls small talk eventually breaks down even the most disciplined minds. Rex couldn't help but laugh. You mean we talk people to death? Worse, Zoltak gurgled grimly. You talk them into submission. After the Miller incident, 17 psychological warfare specialists studied the recordings. 3 resigned immediately. 4 developed nervous disorders. 1 started a religion based on her conversational patterns. That's actually pretty impressive, Rex admitted. The Confederacy classified human conversation as a Class 3 psychological weapon after analyzing what you call customer service complaints and family holiday dinner discussions. Your species can verbally batter down resistance through sheer persistence. The execution chamber door slid open with an ominous hiss. Inside was a simple metal chair surrounded by humming technology. After Miller, Zoltak continued, we documented 14 more cases of humans talking their way out of maximum security. One even convinced a guard that they were actually the warden from the future, come back to prevent a catastrophic food poisoning incident in the cafeteria. Classic Dave Huxley move, Rex nodded appreciatively. He was always good at the time traveler con. The damage extended beyond prison breaks, Zoltak said, his voice dropping to a grim whisper. One of your humans, during only 6 hours of interrogation, convinced an entire Krellian battle cruiser crew to desert and establish an ice cream parlor on Betelgeuse Prime. Yeah, that sounds like Major Thompson. He's very passionate about artisanal desserts. As the guards attempted to strap Rex into the execution chair, Zoltak hovered at what he clearly considered a safe conversational distance. If you value efficiency, Rex said casually, you might want to loosen that left restraint. It's cutting off circulation to my hand, which means I'll probably pass out before your execution sequence finishes. Don't you want me conscious for the grand finale? One of the guards reflexively adjusted the restraint. Thanks, Rex smiled. Say, has anyone ever told you that your exoskeleton has a really amazing iridescent quality? Is that natural or do you use some kind of polish? The insectoid guard clicked what might have been pleasure. It's natural. But I do use a specialized molting oil from. You conversing with the prisoner. Zoltak interjected frantically. This is precisely how it begins. Rex maintained an expression of innocent curiosity. I'm just making observation, Warden. By the way, those 15 eyes must give you incredible depth perception. How does that work exactly? Do you see 15 slightly different perspectives or one composite image? Despite himself, Zoltak answered, each eye processes different wavelengths of light, allowing me to perceive dimensions beyond standard vision. He caught himself and bubbled angrily. Cease your interrogation techniques. Not an interrogation. Just curious, Rex said with a shrug. Humans are naturally inquisitive. It's probably why we're so dangerous to you. We just keep asking questions until we understand things. Like, why would a clearly intelligent species like yours develop a prison system instead of rehabilitation technologies? Seems inefficient. Zoltak's gelatinous form rippled with indignation. Our penal system is the most advanced in 17 sectors. We have rehabilitation programs for 98% of criminal classifications. Except humans, Rex pointed out, because you cannot be rehabilitated through conventional means. Your psychological architecture resists standard cognitive restructuring. Have you tried just, having a conversation with us about why we did what we did? The warden's eye stalks twisted in agitation. That's precisely what we cannot do. The Confederacy has classified human heart-to-heart talks as level 8 psychological manipulation events. One of the guards, a reptilian being with copper scales, leaned toward Zoltak. Sir, execution sequences are prepared. Shall we proceed? Wait, Rex said quickly. Before you execute me, don't you want to know why I was mapping your defense grid? What if I discovered a critical vulnerability? Wouldn't you want that information? The guard looked uncertainly at Zoltak, whose gelatinous form was now pulsating with obvious conflict. It's a trick, Zoltak insisted, though his voice wavered. Human conversational weapons are most effective when they offer seemingly valuable information. True, Rex acknowledged. But what if this time it's legitimate? What if there's a draconian stealth fleet positioned in the asteroid belt right now, waiting for my signal? What if executing me triggers an automated distress beacon that brings the entire Earth Space Navy to your doorstep? The room fell silent, except for the nervous clicking of the insectoid guard's mandibles. He's employing conversational tactic 47B, Zoltak announced, creating fictional crisis scenarios to induce paranoia and decision paralysis. Is it fictional, though? Rex raised an eyebrow. You caught me mapping your defense grid. Why would Earth send a lieutenant commander for routine espionage, unless there was something particularly valuable about this specific prison? The warden's eyes swiveled toward each other in what Rex interpreted as the alien equivalent of a concerned frown. This facility houses only standard security threats. There is nothing of particular strategic value here. Except, Rex said slowly, prisoner number 890T, the Arcturian diplomat who supposedly died in a shuttle accident 3 cycles ago. Complete silence fell. Even the execution machinery seemed to pause. How could you possibly know about prisoner 890T? Zoltak's voice had dropped to a horrified whisper, all 15 eyes now fixed on Rex. That information is classified at the highest levels. Rex smiled enigmatically. Let's just say humans are good at putting together seemingly unrelated pieces of information. It's another one of our conversational weapons, pattern recognition, wrapped in casual curiosity. The warden turned to the guards. Leave us, immediately. Immediately. But sir, protested the avian guard, Protocol 7 Delta clearly states. Out, burbled Zoltak with surprising force. Once they had gone, he sealed the room and lowered his gelatinous form to eye level with Rex. What you're suggesting is impossible. No one knows the Arcturian diplomat is here. And yet, here I am, strapped to an execution chair, talking about it, Rex replied calmly. Maybe you should consider that your security isn't as airtight as you thought. By the way, could I get some water? Human vocal cords dry out quickly in artificial environments, and I'd hate for our conversation to be cut short by something as trivial as dehydration. Almost automatically, Zoltak extruded a tendril toward a wall panel, dispensing a cup of water which he then reluctantly offered to Rex. Thanks, Rex said after taking a sip. You know, for someone about to execute me, you're quite accommodating. I appreciate that. Do not attempt to establish rapport, Zoltak warned, though his tone had softened almost imperceptibly. Now explain how you obtained this classified information. I could tell you, Rex mused, but then I'd have nothing to bargain with, would I? How about this transfer me to a cell while you verify some information? If I'm lying, you can execute me tomorrow. One day won't make a difference, right? The warden's form rippled with indecision. Standard protocol forbids. Yes, I know. But we've already established this isn't a standard situation. Tell you what put me in with the most harmless prisoner you have, someone who couldn't possibly help me escape, even if they wanted to. 4 hours later, Rex found himself sharing a cell with a small, purple alien that resembled a cross between a jellyfish and a chipmunk. According to the identification panel, his cellmate was Blorch, convicted of smuggling counterfeit luxury goods across Confederacy borders. "So they just didn't execute you?" Blorch asked, his voice a high-pitched squeak of disbelief. "But you're human." "Let's just say the warden and I have reached a temporary understanding," Rex replied, examining the cell carefully. "He's checking some intelligence I provided." "Impossible," Blorch declared, his tiny tentacles waving dismissively. "Zoltak never breaks protocol. He once executed his own fourth cousin twice removed for trying to smuggle in non-regulation food supplements." Rex sat on the lower bunk and leaned forward conspiratorially. "I want to know the secret, Blorch. It's all in how you talk to people." "Talk?" Blorch's eye stalks quivered. "That's the problem. Humans talk and talk until reality itself seems to bend around them. There are training videos about your kind's verbal trickery." "Not trickery," Rex corrected, "just conversation. For instance, did you know that in human culture, sharing a secret with someone creates an instant bond of trust?" Blorch edged away slightly. "I did not know that, nor do I wish to bond with you." "Too late," Rex grinned. "I've already shared classified information with you about an Arcturian diplomat being held secretly in this prison. Now we're connected by a secret. That's how human friendship works. That's not how friendship works for any rational species." Blorch protested, but Rex could see the alien's curiosity was piqued. "So," Rex continued casually, "what are you in for? Real smuggling, or were you framed?" 3 hours later, Rex had not only heard Blorch's entire life story, but he had convinced the small alien to demonstrate how he could squeeze through the cell's ventilation system, just as an academic exercise, of course. When the guards came to deliver the evening meal, they found Rex and Blorch engaged in animated conversation with the prisoners in the adjacent cell, a pair of methane-breathing Torvixians who had previously never communicated with anyone outside their species. "What's happening here?" demanded the guard. "No inter-cell communication." "We're just discussing the philosophical implications of consciousness across different biochemical systems," Rex explained innocently. "Did you know the Torvixians believe that thought itself is a form of molecular vibration? Fascinating stuff." The guard looked confused, then suspicious. "No talking. Eat your nutrient cubes in silence." But the damage was done. By lights out, the entire cell block was buzzing with unprecedented interspecies conversation. Prisoners who had never acknowledged each other were debating, arguing, and most dangerously of all, laughing together. The next morning, Warden Zoltak arrived at Rex's cell in a state of agitated pulsation. "The entire security rhythm of my prison has been disrupted," he accused, quivering with each word. "Prisoners who have never spoken are now communicating constantly. 3 guards have requested transfers after being drawn into philosophical discussions about the nature of confinement." Rex looked up from the small makeshift chessboard he and Blorch had created using nutrient cube wrappers. "Sounds like morale is improving. You should be pleased." "Pleased?" A particularly violent ripple passed through Zoltak's gelatinous form. "The draconians in Block C are teaching the Vorpal assassins in Block D how to sing harmonies. The prison psychologist found 2 Quanta warriors discussing their feelings about their abusive hive mothers. This is catastrophic." "I prefer the term community building," Rex offered. "By the way, I've been meaning to ask that diplomat in special containment. The one everyone thinks died in a shuttle accident? How's that working out for the Confederacy politically?" Zoltak's eyes swiveled frantically. "That information remains classified, human. And I've verified there is no draconian fleet in the asteroid belt. You lied to delay your execution." "Did I?" Rex smiled. "Or did I just want to give the prisoners time to learn about each other, and to realize that despite their different biologies, psychologies, and crimes, they all share one common factor: they're all being held by a confederacy that decides some beings, like humans, you don't even deserve trials before execution." But the warden backed away. "You're implementing conversational weapon pattern 89C, inciting rebellion through shared grievances." "I'm just making observation," Rex said with a shrug. By the way, Blorch here was telling me how the ventilation system connects all the cell blocks. Quite the engineering marvel. Did you know he can fit through it? Just an interesting fact, not suggesting anything. Silence. Zoltak's translator nearly overloaded with the volume. The guards. Prepare the execution chamber immediately. As Rex was escorted out, prisoners throughout the block began calling out to him. Some offered encouragement. Others asked questions about human culture. Several just wanted to know how the chess game with Blorch would have ended. You see the problem you've created? Zoltak gurgled as they approached the execution chamber once more. In less than one standard day, you've transformed my orderly facility into a chaotic social club. I think the word you're looking for is community, Rex corrected. Turns out most sentient beings enjoy connecting with other sentient beings. Who knew? The alarm klaxons began blaring before Zoltak could respond. The overhead announcement system crackled to life. Security breach in blocks C, D, and F. All personnel implement lockdown procedures. What have you done? Zoltak's voice modulator barely contained his panic. Rex looked genuinely surprised. Me? I've been with you for the past 20 minutes. How could I possibly have caused that? The prison erupted into chaos. Through view screens along the corridor, they could see prisoners of all species moving freely between cell blocks. None were fighting or attempting to harm guards. They appeared to be simply talking, organizing, working together in ways the segregated prison system had been specifically designed to prevent. It's a full-scale rebellion, one guard reported, rushing up to Zoltak, but they're not using violence. They're just refusing to return to cells. They're demanding to speak with the human. This is unprecedented. Zoltak's form was now pulsating so rapidly he was nearly hovering without his gravity assist. How can they coordinate without weapons or communication devices? We taught them something called a telephone game last night, Rex explained helpfully. It's where you whisper a message to one person, who whispers it to another, and so on. Kid stuff, really. Through another view screen, they watched as Blorch squeezed through what appeared to be an impossibly small maintenance duct, trailing what looked suspiciously like a makeshift key card fashioned from repurposed meal trays. You see, it is a... Rex continued conversationally as the prison dissolved into organized chaos around them. Humans don't just talk to manipulate. We talk to connect, to build communities, to find common ground across differences. And once people start talking to each other, really talking well, that's when the real danger begins. Zoltak's 15 eyes darted frantically between screens, showing various stages of his prison's social revolution. But they're enemies. Some of these species have been at war for generations. Amazing what can happen when you put aside differences and focus on common goals, Rex observed. Like not being arbitrarily executed without trial, for instance. The warden's gelatinous form suddenly went completely still, a sign of extreme distress in his species. You planned this from the moment you arrived. Not exactly, Rex admitted. I was genuinely surprised to be scheduled for immediate execution. Everything after that was just human improvisation. 3 standard weeks later, the emergency session of the Galactic Confederacy Security Council had reached its 14th hour. Representatives from 17 species argued vociferously about the events at Detention Complex E19 and the resulting new classification of human conversational abilities. High Commander Rex of the security forces pounded his chitinous appendage on the table. The evidence is irrefutable. One human, through conversation alone, incited a bloodless prison rebellion that resulted in the evacuation of an entire maximum security facility. The Arcturian representative rose slowly. More concerning is that the supposedly deceased diplomat who was being illegally detained has now been returned to us with full apologies from the Confederacy Intelligence Directorate. A diplomatic catastrophe narrowly averted by human conversation. The former warden Zoltak, now demoted to Assistant Sanitation Coordinator 3rd Class, bubbled miserably in the witness box. I followed all protocols, except one. I allowed the human to speak. Everything unraveled from there. And where is this Lieutenant Commander Rex Danger now? Demanded the Draconian delegate. High Commander Rex shifted uncomfortably. Following the incident, the human was released as part of the negotiated resolution with the prison population. No other solution would satisfy the unified demands of 17 previously hostile prisoner factions. So a known Earth operative is now freely roaming Confederacy space after effectively dismantling our most secure detention facility through talking? The draconian's scales flushed dark red with anger. It gets worse, Rex admitted. Our intelligence suggests he has been appointed as Earth's new diplomatic envoy to the Confederacy. His credentials arrived this morning. The chamber erupted in pandemonium. Several delegates immediately requested emergency evacuation protocols. Order. Order. The council president's voice boomed across the chamber. We must establish new protocols immediately. All human prisoners must not only be executed immediately upon capture, but must be fitted with vocal suppression devices the moment they are identified. Too late for that, came a cheerful voice from the entrance to the chamber. Every head turned to see Lieutenant Commander, now Ambassador Rex Danger, standing in the doorway, diplomatic credentials in hand and a winning smile on his face. Hope I'm not interrupting anything important, he continued, strolling casually into the stunned silence. I just wanted to introduce myself properly and maybe have a little chat about interspecies relations. I've got some fascinating ideas I'd love to discuss. 3 council members fainted on the spot. By the way, Rex added, settling comfortably into an empty seat at the table, I've brought along a human cultural specialty to share. We call it small talk. I think you're going to love it. The emergency evacuation alarms began to sound, but somehow no one seemed quite able to leave.